Hello, agentpreneurs, and welcome to episode 113 of the Daily List Report. We've got another great show in store for you today. We've got Loida Velasquez. She's back on the show. Her last episode with us was amazing, and I know a lot of you loved it. You commented on it. It was great. So we have her back on the show today. We're going to talk all about cold calling, something that I think for a lot of you is completely terrifying, but something that can provide tremendous benefits, not just in terms of the business you can generate, but frankly, for a new agent, it is a great way to learn objection handling. It's a great way to sort of put yourself out there and get trained and sort of pay your dues, so to speak. While you're here, of course, if you enjoy the show, please consider subscribing. Click the little bell so you're notified of all of our great episodes and you don't miss a single thing. So I've got up on the screen right now Lloyda's Instagram. She's active across social media. We'll link to all of these below. Get to her Instagram, subscribe, follow, I should say. Sorry, wrong terminology. Follow her on Instagram. Here's her YouTube where she's got great videos that are geared towards agents. So this is a real estate agent-focused Instagram channel. She's got 60,000 subscribers. She's doing great on this. We talked a bit about that on the first episode that she was on. But definitely subscribe to her channel and make sure you don't miss any videos. And then, of course, LoidaVelasquez.com, we'll link to that as well. She's got lots of resources there and some great information on her. So make sure you go there and you check her out because she's a delightful person, tons of experience. She was named top 5 top young agents to watch by Property Shark. She's all sorts of stuff. You know what? I'm going to let her say this herself. So, Lloyda, welcome back to the show.
Yes, Randy, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. You were a delight to talk to last time, and I really enjoyed our conversation. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking time out of your crazy schedule to come back on the show and share your perspective and wisdom with all of our agents.
Yes, of course. I feel that anytime that I get invited to another platform to share my knowledge that can help another agent, and maybe if it's a little tip that they can implement, I'm more than happy to do it.
That's awesome. I love that. Lloyda, for those of you who missed the first episode, and we're linking to that right now, so, definitely check that out. Why don't you take a moment and just give a little bit of background on who you are so everyone can get to know you?
Yes, so I am a real estate agent in Southern California with TBC at eXp Realty. I have been in the business for about 5 years. Prior to getting into real estate, I worked in marketing and advertising for about 8 years, where I was traveling 100% of the time from hotel to hotel, just living out of a suitcase. And it got to the point that I did not want to live that lifestyle. And that's when I saw real estate as an opportunity for me to really put my skills to the test and kind of become my own boss, but knew that I had to be extremely disciplined if I actually wanted to succeed. So 5 years later, here I am. I do, just like you mentioned, YouTube videos, mostly targeting and giving information to newer real estate agents. It started as a way for me to kind of put out my journey out there so that people could see what it was like to be a new real estate agent, especially from a woman's perspective. I remember being brand new and going on YouTube, and I wasn't really finding a lot of real estate agents, or most of the coaches were people that I feel were not in my age range, and most of them were men. So that's why I wanted to put out my journey and what I was learning, and it started to gain traction. And just like you mentioned, I'm about to hit 60,000 subscribers, which is crazy to me. But I'm so happy and blessed, and yeah, that's where I am now.
That's awesome. Well, let's help her get there, everybody, right? So right now she's at 59,700, okay, and probably some change. All right, so let's help Lloyda get to 60,000. That would make me super happy if we can help you get there, Lloyda. You said something really interesting. I want to touch on this before we get into cold calling, right? Which is, I've talked a lot on this show and a lot with people who have started channels and a lot of people who are just like, I don't know what content to create. And I think you said something very important, Lloyda, which is you said, as a new real estate agent, as a woman, you went to YouTube and the faces, so to speak, the faces that you were seeing didn't resonate with you. Like they didn't feel like you, right? And so you saw an opportunity and a void there and you filled that void with your own voice. And I think that's really great, right? And that's great advice for somebody who's looking to find their niche and build their brand is, what if I'm just myself? Maybe this doesn't really exist out there. And I love that about your approach to your channel, Lloyda.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I didn't really find a lot of women doing it. I found a few, but they were not consistent. They had posted maybe like 10 videos, and then out of nowhere they stopped and they never posted again. So I saw that as an opportunity for me, that if I was consistent, I would become that woman real estate agent that other women can go on YouTube and find valuable information for. And then that's when I knew was the key. And I've been doing that for the past few years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so today you're back on the show, and we're going to talk about the dreaded cold call. I will say my very first job, I was in college and I was interning at a recruiting company. It was an executive recruiting company. They recruited very high level positions. And this, I'm dating myself a little bit. The internet existed, just so we're all clear, okay? But it wasn't what it was today, okay? This is pre-social media and all that. And I literally had to get on the phone, and I'm trying to call into these companies and find out who the right executive was so we could try to recruit them. So I'm talking to secretaries going, hey, so who's your vice president of whatever? And how are you today, right? So like there's so much, it was terrifying to me, right? And I had to make hundreds of phone calls and try to sort of get past. But what it helped me with was how to objection handle, how to be confident, how to basically get the information that I wanted, right? To get sort of the end goal or objective. And I know, Lloyda, you know better than I do that a lot of agents are terrified of this idea of cold calling because nobody likes rejection. So I'll open it up sort of at the highest level and then we'll kind of drill down. But talk a little bit about cold calling, talk a little bit about the fear that people have, but also, frankly, the opportunities that come from doing it.
Yeah, I feel that especially being a newer real estate agent, you always hear that you have to be prospecting in the beginning. If you don't have any deals, you either have to be cold calling or door knocking, talking to strangers. And just like you mentioned, everyone has a fear of getting rejected, of getting that, no, I'm not interested, stop calling me. And for many agents, if you're not prepared to hear those words are going to traumatize you to the point that you're never going to want to pick up the phone. Now, for me, I remember being in that position where I knew I had to make the calls because it was going to take me to that next step of possibly getting a lead that maybe I can convert and later on actually get paid on. So even though I personally was not feeling comfortable in making the call, I knew it was part of the process. And eventually it would get to the point that I didn't have to make the cold calls every single day, because I would have built a database that I can reach out to and past clients would reach out to me. But even like you mentioned in the intro, it's kind of like you have to pay your dues. You start from the bottom, and that's what builds your skills and gives you that confidence. Cold calling, it's not easy. If you're new, it's not like from one day to the next you're going to be a pro. Through the hundreds of years, you know how to read people and listen to their tone of voice and their personality over the phone, even though you've never seen them. And that's ultimately what helps you build your skills and gain that confidence to get to the point that you can just cold call anybody and not be scared to hear what they say, whether it's a yes, I'm interested, or stop calling me, or go rot in a rock or something.
Exactly. Like Lloyda, so you pick up the phone, okay, and you call somebody from a list, right? And I would imagine that the quality of that list is also a factor, right? That's important, right? So if you're, on one extreme, right, you could have the phone book, right, if that still exists, and you just go down the phone book and you call. And on the other end of the extreme, you have a list of really hot leads, people that are in the market to buy or sell, right? And so that they're already thinking about this. But beyond that, so you get on the phone with somebody and they don't know who you are. They're not happy to hear. You're lucky they answered the phone, right? Because I put things to voicemail all the time. Like, what do you do, Lloyda? Like, how do you disarm them? How do you build rapport? How do you get the opportunity to have a conversation with them?
So first of all, you definitely have to have a type of script to follow. There are a lot available out there. There's from Mike Ferry on his website that are free. There's Kevin Ward. There's a lot of different scripts. And the purpose of a script is for you to kind of have a guide as to what to say and what questions to ask. So the first step for any agent, especially if you're newer, I would say to get a script and learn the questions. Once you have mastered the questions, now you kind of graduate to that next step of learning to listen and change your tone of voice to have a better communication. That's what helps you build the rapport and be able to listen to what the person on the other line is telling you. And I feel that a lot of agents' ability to hear the person's concern or whether they are actually motivated or not, and they're more concerned as to what question they need to ask. When in reality, you need to have like a combination of both, and that's ultimately how you can kind of bring everything together to see if you can actually help them, but also not sound very salesy, like you're, look, Randy, you need to hire me because I'm going to sell your house and
Right.
things like that.
You know, Lloyda, it's interesting though, right? Because, and help me, right? Because I haven't done this, right, in the context of real estate. But, you know, in a sense, when you call somebody, you kind of want to get to the point, but you don't want to be salesly because I imagine you can't call somebody up and you're like, hey, Joe, how's your day going? Right? Like, I don't know who you are. Like, well, I'm not going to tell you how my day is. Like, why are you wasting my time? But on the other hand, it's like, hey, Joe, I'm so-and-so, and I'm the best agent and blah, 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 and I should totally do this, and you should hire me right now, right? So, like, how do you strike that balance? Like, what are the first words out of your mouth? How do you start a conversation to get them engaged enough to be able to carry that through?
So no matter who it is that I'm calling, and I do call a lot of expireds and for sale by owners, but no matter who it is, the very first thing, and let's say we're going to role play right now, I would say, hey, Randy, this is Lloyda. I'll be very quick. That line, I'll be very quick, already kind of tells them, okay, she's going to be very quick. Let me hear what she has to say. And then I'll go on to whatever I'm going to say. So let's say your home came off the market. I'll be like, hey, Randy, I'll be very quick. I was calling about your home in Orange that just came off the market. Wanted to see what your plans are actually for putting it back on the market and getting it sold.
Well, Lloyda,
so you've already told them, I'm very quick.
I get called 27 times a day. You're like my 30th phone call today, Lloyda. Everyone's bombarding me.
I know. Isn't it really annoying that you're getting a whole ton of calls from realtors?
It really
well, Randy,
is.
really quick, do you say how fast to sell, or what is it that you're going to be doing?
I really want to sell this place. I mean, obviously it didn't work out, but I really want to sell this place.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like you're ready to put the home back on the market. How soon are you available? If you knew for a fact it could be done in the next 30 days.
Well, I'm available by Zoom. I'm not going out and meeting people right now, Lloyda. So how can we meet?
Perfect. Zoom works for me too, because I completely understand. I don't want you to think that I'm coming in and intruding. So why don't we do this? You know, I need to get a little bit more information from you to do my homework. I've helped a lot of clients in your same situation. So where is it that you're going to be moving to once your home sells?
Timbuktu. Love that a lot.
That's exciting. I assume you wanted to be there already, right?
I do. So I want to be there as soon as possible.
Okay. So that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
Where by the sound of my voice, and obviously it's through experience that I know how to read a person on the other line. Everyone has a different personality. Some are expressive, some are drivers. You have to just get straight to the point. But I always want to make sure that I have control of the conversation. So if they ask me a question, I answer it, but immediately I ask the next question.
Yes. That's really important, Lloyda. So I like what you said, which is you said right away, hi, I'm Lloyda. I'm a real estate agent. I'm going to be quick, right? So that's nice and you still have to get lucky because you don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're busy, but it gives you, I think, a good shot. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then the other thing that you said, which is really good, is there's a technique when you're doing user interviews for, let's say, user research, in like the product world or technology world, where you answer questions with questions. And I know that can sound like it can be annoying, but if you do it well, you get the person to start talking and you're controlling the conversation, to your point. So that's a really interesting one.
Yeah. And something that I do want to mention for anyone that's listening is if the person on the other line is answering your question is because there's some type of interest. Otherwise, they would have already hung up. Yes. So if you feel that they're still talking to you, you just got to keep asking questions. Don't feel like you're bothering them, because the longer that you have them on the phone and the more information you can get from them, then you can see if you can actually help them or if they're not serious or you just need to move on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm a big fan of analogies, Lloyda, and I just thought of one. I don't know if this makes sense. You can tell me if I'm full of it or not, right? But it makes me think of like a fishing analogy, right? And so you cast it out there and you get the bite. And that bite is, these days, probably them just picking up the phone, right? But
Mhm.
that bite, when you try to catch them, you have to do it slowly, right? If you go too fast, the line's going to break. You're going to lose the fish. So
Yeah.
you made a good point, which is if they answer your question, you already know something about them. They're in a state of mind where they're willing to have a conversation, or there's a potential here. But then you have to sort of play it at the right cadence, which, to your other point, Lloyda, only comes from experience, right? You
Yeah.
can't say, "Oh, great, awesome! Like I'll be there in 30 minutes, and like let's list your house." Like, whoa, slow down a little bit, right? Like you have to sort of play that, slowly, but not too slow. I know that's tough to
Yeah.
understand,
No,
but
it completely makes sense. Where it's kind of like you're massaging the person for them to get comfortable with you to actually want to give you to me.
yes, yeah, exactly. Interesting, interesting. Okay, so when you're talking to new agents, Lloyda, and you're talking about cold calling, how many calls do they make? Where do they get their list? Like, where do they start?
Yeah, so for newer agents, I would definitely recommend that, sometimes they don't have a big budget. So you can go after for sale by owners. You can find those on Zillow, you can find those on Craigslist. Those are free. Now, the thing with that is that these are type of leads that probably will be giving you a lot of objections. So the positive thing is that if you're new and if you are going to these particular leads, you're going to get you're going to be able to experience exactly the harder type of people to deal with,
Right.
but you're going to have thicker skin and it's going to make you a better agent to the point that once you start talking to people that are motivated and actually willing to speak to you, it's going to feel like a breeze speaking to them. So for example, yeah, so those would be the first. Aside from that, there are services that provide leads, whether it's expireds or for sale by owners or neighborhood phone numbers, and those can range between 90 and up to almost $300 a month. It really depends on their budget. Now, when it comes to that, there is a service called Cold Realty Resource that I use, and I would definitely recommend for agents to use if they actually just want to call neighborhoods. These are individuals that, you could just promote a listing that just sold or is coming soon. And from my experience, the homeowners are more likely to speak to you because they're not getting as many phone calls as, for example, an expired that just came off the market and they're already feeling a little aggravated and mad because they're getting bombarded with phone calls from realtors. So the neighborhood phone calls are a little bit easier to do. But no matter who it is that you're calling, you have to incorporate in your day some type of role play sessions, whether it's with other agents in your brokerage or even in Facebook groups. You can find another agent. I remember being new and role playing before I started my cold calls. And sometimes what would happen is that the same objection that I would role play, I would get on the expired call with an actual seller. And I almost had a smirk on my face when I was on the call with them because I knew exactly what I was going to answer.
Right.
And that gave me the confidence to keep on asking the questions and sometimes even set the appointments.
Interesting. That's a really good point. I like that. So the role playing thing, and we just did a fun little one a moment ago, right? I wasn't too
Yeah.
tough on you, Lloyda, because I know you were going to sell me. But I think that's a really good point: is to find people in your company, on your team, whatever, real people who are going to be tough on you. And I think that's the key, right? The more
Yeah.
you do this with more and more people, the more different types of objections you hear and the more prepared you are to answer them. So I think that's a really great tip. Lloyd, I want to make one other point, which is I want to make sure that for all the agents out there listening, that you use a reputable source for this information. And I'll just tell you from firsthand experience, over the last several months, I've gotten unsolicited text messages from agents saying, hey, do you want to sell your house in so-and-so, right? And That's actually against the law, right? It actually violates FCC rules, right? You can't text somebody unsolicited that they didn't opt in for. It's not the same as email, and if it's email, it has to have an unsubscribe. So just be cautious. You can make a phone call. Just be cautious, though, about sending text messages. Make sure you use a reputable resource so you don't get bit by this. I don't know what the fines are anymore, but they're significant. They might even be thousands of dollars per incident. So just make sure, Lloyda, I'm sure the one that you referenced is obviously a reputable source, but make sure that you're using reputable sources for this information and that you're following the basic rules. So I just wanted to get that out there, Lloyda.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so practice, right? So I love that. Role play with people. I love the idea of starting with free, right? So for a lot of agents who don't have budget, like you said, you can go to Zillow, you can go to Craigslist, you can find for sale by owners, and you can make those phone calls and you can practice and understand that the hit rate's going to be low, right? You're going to make lots and lots of phone calls and you're going to get lots of people to hang up on you, but that in and of itself is learning and practice. And then as you get more budget, you're going to obviously invest in higher quality leads so you can make those phone calls. Let's talk a little bit about the script, right? So you said, Lloyda, that there's some scripts that are available. Mike Ferry has some scripts and others have scripts. You know, that's a good starting point. But for you, I'm assuming you sort of, maybe you don't even need a script anymore, but you, at one point you had your own script. How often did you revisit that, refine that? And are you actually at a point now where the script isn't really necessary because you've done this so much?
So the script, just like I mentioned earlier, the whole purpose of the script was for me to actually know what questions to ask. So I memorized the script, every single line, every single question. Now, once I had that script memorized, then it got to the point that I could tweak it to whatever I felt more comfortable saying. Like some sentences, I could rephrase them to the way that I speak to make it sound more natural to me. So that's kind of how you want to transition how you use scripts. And yeah, it's now to the point that I don't have a physical script in front of me, but the questions that I ask are from a script that I used a long time ago, but I have made it my own.
I like that. I like that. And I would say to all of you out there exactly what Lloyda said, which is I've seen too often people look at scripts and they almost recite it. It sounds rote, right? So they're like, okay, so how long have you been in the market to buy a house, right? And it almost comes off like that. And to your point, Lloyda, it doesn't sound authentic. And people will see through that immediately, right? They cut right through that like, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. And so the best way to overcome that is to commit it to memory, right? To be well-versed in it. Then you can make the words your own because you're not reading, right? It's not rote. You sort of can do it very naturally. I think that's an important part. Lloyda, last question, and then we can wrap up for today is, you know, it's 2020. It is a very strange year for all sorts of reasons, right? We are both in Southern California, and like many parts of the country, inventory is extremely low. Mortgage rates are historically low, right? And is this a good time to be cold calling, right? People have fears about the economy, the pandemic, there's all sorts of things, the election, there's just lots of stuff that's happening right now. So is this a good time to be cold calling? And if so, have you changed your approach at all given the weirdness of 2020?
It is definitely a great time to be cold calling. When the pandemic started, and if you guys didn't know, I do a lot of cold calling. My very first year, all I did was door knocking. And then after that, for the past 4 years, all I do is cold calling. So yeah, when the pandemic started back in March and I was making these calls, a lot of people initially were very hesitant about doing anything real estate related. Right. Some of them were saying, how can you be calling about real estate when people are dying and the pandemic is going on? Some of them were losing their jobs. But as things started to progress, it got to the point that I was still making the calls, and I noticed that there were still people that were looking to buy and looking to sell because of relocation reasons with their family or their jobs. So in the back of my mind, I always knew that there was always going to be someone that needed my help, and whoever didn't, then I could just move on. So especially right now, just like you mentioned, inventory is so low, and we are working with quite a few buyers that are taking advantage of the low interest rates. So what we are doing is that we do a lot of cold calls around neighborhoods where our buyers want to move into, where there's no inventory. And what we are trying to do is find a property that's off market so that we can kind of pair them together so that they don't have to compete with other buyers currently out there. So cold calling, if anything, it's going to help you with your skills and communication, objection handling. I don't think that we can just rely on one source, whether it's the doors or social media. And I bring up social media because I hear it all the time where agents ask me how I go about getting leads on social media, and they just want to focus on that. And what I say to that is, what good is it for you to be getting leads on social media if you have no communication skills or know how to speak to someone over the phone or be able to read them and their personality and ask questions? So cold calling, I definitely still recommend it. I do it all the time. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And if anything, it's going to weed out all of the real estate agents or the people that are too scared. And those that are going to have the guts to actually do it, we'll see that you will actually get leads and set appointments and close some deals.
I like that, Lloyda. You said something there that made me think of what I think is perhaps, not to bury the lead, perhaps the most important point. And I'll let you react to this in a second, which is you said something right now, which is, maybe some people said, oh, we're in a pandemic, this is not a good time to call. But I think, as you said, I think that misses the point, which is, as an agent, you have to have deep conviction for the service that you provide, right? At the end of the day, if you're going to be a good agent, you are in the business of helping people buy or sell a home. And that is a life-changing event for somebody. And right now, in particular, given what's going on, you've got a whole group of people. In fact, one of my employees just announced that, right, is leaving the state because we can work from anywhere, right? And her life is transforming in some significant ways. You've got a lot of people who are leaving the area. You've got, because of low interest rates, a lot of people, even though prices are high, are able to actually afford a house that they couldn't before. Yeah. And so fundamentally, if you have the courage of your convictions, that you are providing a good service, and you do it in a way, as I always talk about, Lloyda, which is value first, always value first, then that should give you the confidence to make the call. And anybody who says this is a bad time to call doesn't know what they're talking about, and I think is missing the point. And so I just wanted to, I'll get you to react to that. I just wanted to bring that up because I think that's perhaps the most important thing, is that the confidence comes from the courage of your convictions, that you're actually providing a valuable service to somebody.
Yeah, no, you're right. And even recently when I'm making the calls, a lot of people are answering, and some of them are actually asking me the question, how is the market right now? Because there is a lot of misinformation that makes people think that no one is buying and that nobody's selling, when in reality, there's a lot of activity going on right now. So if I can be that source of information to educate someone, well, even if they're not looking to do anything, they'll remember me. We can exchange information. And if at any point they do have a real estate need, they'll remember Lloyda, the girl that called during the pandemic that was actually working. So she must know what she's doing, or I know that she's going to work hard for me and whatever it is that I need.
Absolutely.
And that's how you want to position yourself.
Yeah, totally agreed. Awesome. Well, Lloyda, we're 30 minutes in. It's hard to believe these conversations go so quickly, don't they?
Yes.
Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up today?
No, if anything, I just want to encourage everyone to still make those calls during this time. I also do want to share that I will be having a new real estate agent bootcamp that I'm hosting. I always get a lot of questions from new real estate agents. So this bootcamp is over 4 weeks, and specifically what it targets is how to cold call, overcoming objections, setting up your business, and all of the foundations that you need to kind of get things going, especially when you're new. So that's going to start September 23rd, and people can just go to my website, loidavelasquez.com/new agent.
Awesome. I was actually going to try to pull that up here real quick. /new agent. We might as well, we're recording this thing. We might as well just pull this thing up right here. Okay, awesome. So we pull it up on the screen. So this is what Lloyda's talking about. Starts September 23rd, 4-week boot camp. Yes. So we'll link to that as well, Lloyda, and we'll make sure that hopefully we can get some people to join that and check that out. I think that sounds fantastic.
Awesome.
Lloyda, thank you as always for your time. Glad to hear that things are going so well at Team BC, and excited to continue to follow your growth.
Yes, thank you, Randy. I'm always happy to be a part of the List Report. videos with you guys.
Thank you. We'll definitely have you back real soon. Oh, well, have a great day, Lloyda.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye. All right. Well, there you have it. I think a really important topic. I like that it was so focused around something that was very specific, which is cold calling, and something that terrifies a lot of people. But I'm telling you, every successful agent that I've talked to has done this. They may not still do it. Maybe they found something that was a better playbook for them, that they leverage social media or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. But every agent that I've spoken to has said this is a great proving ground. This is a great way to train up your skills, to learn how to handle objections, to experience people hanging up, on your face, experience people being
Yeah.
rude, unfortunately, from time to time, right? There's so much that comes out of this
Yep.
that is beneficial to you. So that's it for today. Until tomorrow, be safe, be healthy, be happy, and we'll see you soon.